Hey, Soul Survivors. So, this is a viewer topic request, and check out his YouTube channel, Joshua Vyers, Vires. But my experience with the dark side, and this is what brought me to become a better Christian and to realize there is something out there. And I'd love to hear what you guys think. And this starts back probably when I was around, I don't know, early teens, and I had some experience with a Ouija board. I do not suggest that you guys do that, but these are my experiences. So it was my best friend's mom, and she was doing it by herself. They always say to do two people, but she was doing this Ouija board, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is so BS. But this is where it got tricky is she started like knowing things about me. I had never met her before. Remember, it was my best friend's mom. First time I was ever there, and she knew like inside secrets. And so I got this like chill on my arm and I didn't move. I didn't say anything, but all of a sudden she starts going, "See, I can touch you. I can feel you." And it started like flirting with me. You got to remember, I was a like early teen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you, which is so silly, but flirting with a Ouija board. And so my friend and I had purchased one. And when we went to Toys R Us, we grabbed one and then the lights flickered. They like went out and back on. And so it kind of freaked us out and we grabbed a different one. They were like, you should have gotten that one. That was probably calling out to you, but we got a different one. And so I was upstairs and at my parents' house. And we had first, before we went upstairs to play with it, we put some spaghetti noodles on the stove to like make buttered noodles. And of course, preteen, you can't wait the 10 minutes. So we go upstairs and we're playing, and all of a sudden, it starts saying, Belky, don't be ridiculous. And I had never really watched that show, but I had been exposed, like walking by, my brother was watching it. And can't remember the name of the show, but Belky, that was they always said, Belky, don't be ridiculous. And so we're upstairs. This is something that is not in my mind. And it was on the TV at the same time. And we know that because it started spelling spaghetti. Ouija boards are known for not having good spelling. And so we end up going downstairs. We would have forgotten about the noodles, but because of this thing, and yes, you always had those questions because it wasn't just me, it was my friend also doing it. But it was like just a very light touch. And if you've ever done the light as a feather, stiff as a board, that kind of thing, like what is going on? So it alerted us of the noodles. It knew what was on TV, and we didn't remember about the noodles. We didn't know what was on TV. And later on, how do we know if this is real, right? So later on, I had a friend of mine had needed to move in. She was in a bad spot. So I let her move in and I had told her, you can move in, but just no 420 stuff. Like, don't bring that in my house. You got to remember, a little bit older, it was illegal back then. And I just wanted nothing to do with it. I'll help you out. I don't care if you do it. Just don't bring it into my house. I don't want to be responsible for that. So, anyways, her and I are doing it, and it starts calling her out. It's saying that she was doing it in my house when I wasn't there. And so, is this real? Like, is she going to call herself out and get kicked out? Because I could not, I was in the middle of a custody battle, couldn't risk having anything like that in my house. So, it's highly unlikely she would bust herself out. And also, I had like these weird, like demonic feelings, especially in my thighs. It was like this tingle, awkward feeling. And then I was at a point where I had stayed with my best friend in the beginning when I told you friend's mom. So I was in the middle of purchasing her house, which fell through. But so we were living together for a while, and there was like some supernatural things going on. You could feel cold spots. Also, like her daughter, there was something with like a radio turning on, and then the daughter seeing visions of things. And so my exposure, now that I feel I had this like creepy feeling, it kind of like carried on. And I had ended up moving on. This is years later. And I had gone to purchased this building that had two apartments up top. I turned the main floor into like a dance studio, tanning salon, and gift shop. So the upstairs used to be like one of them was a doctor's office. The other was still preoccupied. I had to honor this lady's lease. When it ran out, I had the two apartments. So this one I had to remodel. So I'm staying in the back of the shop. I kind of used the upstairs, but I kind of stayed on the bottom. Now, this place was connected to the Underground Railroad. And if you go under the street, you would go up for safety in the bakery across the street. But the basement was really creepy. And then also, when you would go up to the apartment, that they didn't have an overhead light. It was probably 23 to 30 steps up. It was more than your average, like 12 steps. So it was really high up and it was real skinny, real dark. And it was always so creepy, scary to go up there. Now, I had worked out of state and I would drive back and forth. So I had like a 2 hour drive. I would listen to like the midnight radio, truckers, whatever. And they had things about like shadow people. So you got to remember that that's kind of like spooky stuff. Like the things that we listen to kind of get ingrained in our mind too. So I was a little apprehensive of things, but inside upstairs, when I did sleep up there, it was, like I said, a doctor's office before. So the bedroom had no windows. And I looked and there was like kind of like Venetian blinds, the brightest light that came through. It's like they flickered off. So it was like instant, but it was so bright. And there's no explanation for it because it was a closed-in room. Where'd this light come from? Then, when I did sleep downstairs, there was this time that I had what some people will call sleep paralysis. Now, for me, it did not feel like sleep paralysis where you can't move. You were like frozen. And I had this like dark entity above me and it was on top of me. I'm laying in bed. I am on my back. Those of you who have experienced sleep paralysis, please tell me if you were on your back. I think there might be something to it. Maybe it's because you're prone, more vulnerable. Who knows? But I had this dark entity that I could see, couldn't make out a face, but this darkness, and it felt like it was pulling my soul. And I tried in my mind to scream for Jesus. Okay, I'm a Christian and I'm trying to form in my head, Jesus come to me. And it was like a struggle to get the thought together. And I was like terrified that I couldn't move. And it felt like this guy was trying to pull my soul. So I did go to a medium or like fortune teller, whatever you want to call it. So she had known some things at that time because I moved around a little bit. So at this time, I was at my parents' house wanting to move to the other side of the state. So I kind of purposely didn't get an apartment. I didn't, get a house, anything like that, because I was trying to purchase a house on the other side of the state. But in that meantime, I still needed to work. So I did have some applications out there, but I go talk to this lady and she's like, you're going to work like within 3 miles of your house and you're going to move there. And I'm like, I am not moving within 3 miles of my parents' house because I can just stay there for free. Like that would be dumb. And also, the commitment of a lease. And it turns out that I had been offered a job. I applied for a management position, but it was an apartment manager. So I get this apartment for free. Now, how does she know that I would get this place? It was within 3 miles. So you got to remember, in the Detroit area, you go like 25, 30 miles outside of your home base to apply for jobs. That's very common. And so I get this job. Another time, she knew, like my ex, his father, had a couple fingers amputated. And she was like, well, what is this that I see about a gun? And so I think that was about my ex, who was a state trooper. But she knew, she said something about some white-haired guy, and she did the exact amputations. How does she know that? And the things that she would know, the things that she would foresee. Now, she did say that she saw like some spirit behind me. Who knows if any of this is true, but this is my experience with it. She's like, go away. And ever since then, like I really haven't had problems, which is so weird. Because there were, like I said, the different feelings and like dark energy. I talked about the rice experiment that I did. I need to redo it because I gave up, but it's like a love jar, a hate jar, and a neutral jar. And I was like loving on the love jar, hating on the hate jar. And I gave up. So I opened the first two and they just smelled like rice. The third one that I was screaming hate towards, I opened it and it had a horrible smell. Plus, I had a suction pop. Um, and like with the negative energy, you guys have, I'm sure, been to some places that have this negative energy within them. And is it stored energy, you know? But the reason I am bringing this up is I believe there is something out there. I believe when we talk about like the mental illness, I think some of it is like internal demons, like struggling with, alcohol or addiction. Um, but there are times that I think it's these dark entities that are truly the fallen angels. So we're in this like revival right now. People are seeing um, more spirituality, which is refreshing. I would like to add some of that to this channel. Let me know your thoughts on that. But do not mess with that stuff. That stuff is scary. It follows you. It consumes you. And part of it too is it's kind of like an addiction. It's kind of like, ooh, what are we going to see? And we are not meant to know what the future is because that can guide us. But sometimes it can manipulate us into something that we're not supposed to do. And we do it because we're kind of told to. It's not like our conscious choice. And that can be demonic. So also, as these things continued, it got more and more terrifying. And there are not explanations on the light, on the paralysis, and how it affected my brain. Because you could think, okay, maybe I'm like on, kind of in like a sleep state. Um, I did not feel like I was sleeping. I did not feel like I was in that lucid dreaming. So tell me your thoughts. I thought I would share that. There's probably more that I haven't talked about, but we have to remember that we absorb energies. And when we listen to certain music, different people, I talk about the brain damage that can happen from yelling. I need to do research on like music. I know it can cause ear damage, but brain damage possibly. I know that the yelling, the negative stuff, affects us. So, there's one other thing I wanted to say. But just on bells, they were talking. I was watching some videos and they were talking about, did you notice how there's no bells in school anymore? And we really don't have bells in school anymore. We might have a tone, but there's like some healing properties to bells and, you know, uh, different frequencies. If you see like the sand, how it'll go into like different patterns, if you've ever seen the sound frequency things. So I'll get some research on that if you would like to know what type of sounds to listen to, because they do affect us. And they were talking about the bells had like healing properties. They kind of bring your cells into alignment. So that's my experience with the dark side. And the dark side, you failed. You brought me to the light. Have a good night.